The dying sun of Keth-Moran cast long shadows across the royal palace. King Veltar stood before the massive windows of his throne room, watching human ships fill the sky like angry stars. His crystalline scales, once brilliant blue, had faded to a dull gray over the past months of war. The Vorthak Empire that had ruled 3 star systems for 1,000 years was now trapped on one dying world. "My lord," General Kothron entered the chamber, his heavy footsteps echoing in the empty hall. "Our defense fleet reports 30% casualties. The humans have broken through our outer shields." Veltar did not turn around. "How long do we have?" "Perhaps 2 days, maybe 3 if we concentrate all power to the planetary barriers." The king's claws scraped against the stone windowsill. 3 days. Not enough time to evacuate the remaining population, not enough time to mount a meaningful counterattack. The humans had proven themselves too clever, too adaptable. Every Vorthak strategy had been met with swift human responses. Every trap had been avoided or turned against them. "There is one option, my lord." The general's voice carried uncertainty. "The humans have shown interest in diplomatic solutions with other species they have defeated. Perhaps surrender." Veltar spoke the word like poison. "You suggest I surrender the crown of my fathers to these young species?" "To save our people, yes." Veltar finally turned from the window. His red eyes, once fierce as battle flames, now held the weight of impossible choices. "What would we offer them? Our technology is inferior. Our resources are nearly gone. Our military is broken." The general hesitated. The humans seemed to value unique things, cultural artifacts, knowledge, perhaps what? Veltar's voice rose, then fell to a whisper. "What do we have that would interest them enough to spare our people?" The answer came not from the general, but from the shadows near the throne. Princess Nira stepped into the light, her pale scales catching the dim sunlight. Unlike other Vorthak, whose scales were dark blue or green, hers were almost white, marking her as different from birth. "Father," her voice was soft but clear, "I have been studying their communications. The humans are curious about other species. They want to understand us." Veltar looked at his daughter with tired eyes. Nira had always been strange, even for a royal child. She learned languages faster than the best scholars. She understood complex mathematics and battle strategies that confused trained generals. But among the Vorthak, these gifts made her unmarriageable. No warrior wanted a mate who was smarter than him. "What are you suggesting, child?" Nira moved closer, her movements graceful despite her 8-foot height. "I have learned 17 human languages. I understand their military tactics better than our own generals. I know their history, their culture, their psychology." The general stared at her. "How is this possible?" "I have been preparing for this day for years." Nira's red eyes met her father's. "I knew the humans would come. I knew we would lose. So, I studied them." Veltar felt something cold settle in his chest. "You knew we would lose?" "Yes. We are a warrior culture that stopped growing. They are a learning culture that never stops adapting. The outcome was always certain." The king was quiet for a long moment. Outside, more human ships appeared in the sky. Inside, the palace, generators hummed with the strain of maintaining the shields. "What do you propose?" Nira straightened her shoulders. "Give me to them as a gift, a gesture of surrender and respect. I can serve as a bridge between our species. I can help them understand us, and perhaps help us understand them." General Kothron stepped forward. "My princess, you cannot mean to sacrifice yourself to these aliens." "It is not sacrifice if it saves our people." Nira's voice was steady. "I have studied their culture extensively. They value intelligence and cooperation. They treat their prisoners well. They have even integrated some defeated species into their society." Veltar stared at his daughter. In her pale scales and intelligent eyes, he saw his late queen, who had also been different, also been brilliant, also been misunderstood by their society. "You would go willingly? I would go proudly, as a princess of the Vorthak Empire." The king walked to his throne and sat down heavily. The crown on his head, passed down through 50 generations, suddenly felt incredibly heavy. "Prepare a message to the human fleet." he said finally. Tell them King Veltar of the Vorthak Empire wishes to negotiate terms of surrender. General Kothron bowed. What terms shall I mention? Tell them I offer them a gift as a sign of respect and good faith. My daughter, Princess Nira, keeper of our knowledge and customs. She will serve as a cultural ambassador and... Veltar paused, the words difficult to speak. And a token of our complete surrender. As the general left to prepare the transmission, Nira approached her father's throne. Father, I want you to know that I understand. Understand what, child? That you are not giving me away because you do not love me. You are giving me away because you love our people more than your own heart. Veltar reached out and touched his daughter's pale scales. For the first time in months, his eyes showed something other than despair. Perhaps, he said quietly, the humans will see in you what I was too proud to see. Perhaps they will understand that intelligence and compassion are greater weapons than claws and fangs. Nira bowed deeply. I will not disappoint you, Father, or our people. As she left to prepare for her journey to the human ships, Veltar remained, on his throne, staring at the ceiling where ancient murals depicted Vorthak victories from centuries past. Soon those victories would be just memories. But perhaps if his strange, brilliant daughter succeeded, the Vorthak people would have a future he could never have imagined. The transmission went out that evening. In the human fleet above, commanders studied the message with surprise and suspicion. A surrender was expected. A gift was not. Especially not a gift as unusual as an alien princess who claimed to understand human culture better than most humans did. The war for Keth Moran was ending. Not with a battle, but with a gamble. A desperate father's hope that his unwanted daughter might save them all. The shuttle bay of the human flagship Soul's Pride buzzed with nervous energy. Captain So-Young Lee stood at attention with her diplomatic team, watching the Vorthak transport ship dock with their vessel. None of them had ever seen a living. Vorthak up close, only the bodies of warriors killed in battle. Remember, Captain Lee spoke to her team, this could be a trap, but it could also be our first real chance for peace. Stay alert, but be respectful. Lieutenant Commander Hyun Woo. Choi adjusted his weapon belt. As head of security for this meeting, he had studied every known Vorthak attack pattern, but nothing in his training had prepared him for receiving an alien princess as a diplomatic gift. The transport ship's door opened with a hiss of escaping air. First came two Vorthak guards, their dark blue scales gleaming under the shuttle bay lights. They moved with the precise steps of trained soldiers, but their weapons remained holstered. Then Princess Nira stepped out. Choi had expected another warrior like the guards. Instead, he saw something completely different. Nira stood nearly 8 feet tall, but her movements were graceful rather than threatening. Her scales were pale, almost white, unlike any Vorthak they had seen before. Most surprising of all were her eyes. Intelligent red eyes that seemed to take in every detail of the shuttle bay and every face of the human crew. I am Princess Nira of the House of Veltar, she said in perfect Korean. Her voice was clear and strong. I come as a gift from my father and an ambassador of peace between our peoples. Captain Lee stepped forward, trying not to show her surprise at hearing her native language spoken so perfectly by an alien. I am Captain So-Young Lee of the Human Colonial Navy. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you aboard the Soul's Pride. Nira bowed in what appeared to be a traditional Vorthak gesture, then added a slight bow in human style. I am honored to be here, Captain Lee. I hope my presence can help end the suffering between our species. Dr. Jin-Ho Kim, the ship's medical officer, stepped forward with his scanner. Princess, we need to conduct standard health and security scans. This is normal procedure for all visitors to our ship. Of course, Dr. Kim. Nira spread her arms wide, submitting to the scanning process. I understand you must ensure I carry no weapons or diseases that could harm your crew. Choi watched carefully as Dr. Kim ran his medical scanner over the alien princess. Something about her behavior seemed wrong for a prisoner or hostage. She acted more like a willing guest than someone forced into this situation? Interesting, Dr. Kim muttered, studying his scanner readings. Her physiology is more complex than our intelligence report suggested. In what way? Captain Lee asked. Her digestive system appears capable of processing both Vorthak and human food sources. Her neural structure shows unusual development in areas associated with language learning and pattern recognition. And Dr. Kim paused, checking his readings. Again. She seems to have some kind of empathic ability. Her brain is responding to the emotional states of people around her. Nira smiled, an expression that looked strange on a reptilian face but somehow conveyed genuine warmth. Your surprise is understandable, Doctor. I am what my people call a genetic variant. My late mother conducted experiments with forbidden sciences during her pregnancy. The results made me different from typical Vorthak. Different how? Captain Lee asked. I learn faster, understand more, feel more deeply. Among my people, these traits are considered weaknesses. Warriors do not value intelligence over strength or empathy over aggression. Lieutenant Commander. Choi found himself studying the alien princess more carefully. You speak our languages perfectly. How many do you know? 17 human languages, plus the major dialects. I also understand your military communication codes and tactical procedures. The human officers exchanged glances. This level of knowledge could only come from years of dedicated study. Why? Captain Lee asked. Why did you learn so much about us? Nira was quiet for a moment, her red eyes distant. Because I knew this day would come. I knew my father's empire would fall, and I knew I would need to be ready to help my people survive what came after. Dr. Kim looked up from his scanner. Captain, I'm detecting some unusual biological components in her system. Nothing immediately. Dangerous. But I'd like to run more detailed scans in the medical bay. Of course, Nira agreed immediately. I want you to be completely certain that I pose no threat to your crew. As they walked through the ship's corridors toward the medical bay, crew members stopped to stare at the alien princess. Some showed fear, others curiosity. Nira noticed every expression and seemed to understand the emotions behind each look. Your people are frightened of me, she observed to Lieutenant Commander Choi, who had been assigned as her escort. Shouldn't they be? We've been at war with your species for months. Yes, but they are also curious. Humans always want to understand what they encounter. It is one of your greatest strengths. Choi looked at her with surprise. You study us like we study you. More than you study us, I think. My people see you as simple, aggressive creatures to be defeated. But I see you as complex beings capable of both war and peace, destruction and creation, hatred and love. You are more interesting than my people realize. In the medical bay, Dr. Kim ran more detailed scans, while Captain Lee asked questions about Vorthak culture and technology. Nira answered everything openly, providing information that would have taken human intelligence years to gather. Princess, Captain Lee said finally, I must ask you directly. Are you here willingly, or are you a prisoner being used by your father? Nira considered the question carefully. I am here willingly, but not freely. I chose to come because it was the only way to save my people. My father did not force me, but circumstances did. Do you have any way to contact your father or other Vorthak forces? No. When I stepped onto your ship, I cut all ties to my former life. I am now completely dependent on human mercy and human justice. Dr. Kim looked up from his medical readings with a frown. Captain, we need to talk. Privately. Captain Lee and Dr. Kim stepped into the next room, leaving Nira with Lieutenant Commander Choi and 2 guards. What did you find? Captain Lee asked. She's carrying some kind of biological device in her neural system. It's inactive right now, but I can't tell what it's designed to do without more analysis. Captain Lee felt a chill. A weapon? Possibly. Or a tracking device. Or a communication system. I need more time to understand it. Meanwhile, in the medical bay, Choi found himself talking with the alien princess about human philosophy and art. Her knowledge was incredible, but more than that, her genuine interest in human culture seemed real. Lieutenant Commander, Nira said suddenly, your captain and doctor are concerned about something they found in their scans. Choi tensed. How do you know that? I can sense their emotional states. Fear, suspicion, worry. They found something in me that troubles them. And? Nira met his eyes directly. Whatever they found, I did not put it there knowingly. If I carry some danger to your people, I want it removed, even if the process kills me. The sincerity in her voice made Choi believe her. But belief and trust were two very different things, especially when the safety of the entire human fleet might be at stake. When Captain Lee returned, her expression was serious. "Princess Nira, we need to discuss what our scans have revealed. This conversation may determine whether you live as our guest or die as our enemy." 3 months had passed since Princess Nira arrived on the Soul's Pride. The alien princess had become a familiar sight in the ship's corridors, working alongside human scientists and sharing knowledge about Vorthak technology. Her relationship with Lieutenant Commander Choi had grown from suspicious guard duty to something resembling friendship. Nira spent her days in the science laboratories, helping human engineers understand captured Vorthak equipment. Her nights were spent in long conversations with Choi about the differences between their cultures. She had proven herself helpful, intelligent, and genuinely committed to peace between their species. Dr. Kim had continued studying the biological device in her neural system, but his scans showed it remained completely inactive. Whatever its purpose, it seemed harmless for now. That changed when Communications Officer Tai-min intercepted a coded transmission from the dying Vorthak homeworld. "Captain Lee," Tai-min called out from his station on the bridge. "I've decoded part of that Vorthak transmission we picked up yesterday." Captain Lee looked up from her reports. "What does it say?" "It's from King Veltar to someone called the Architect. The message talks about something called Project Final Gift and mentions a biological timer set to activate when emotional resonance reaches optimal levels." Dr. Kim, who was also on the bridge reviewing medical reports, suddenly went very still. "Captain, I need to run new scans on Princess Nira immediately." "Why?" "Because I think we just learned what that device in her brain is really for." Within an hour, Nira was back in the medical bay, confused but cooperative as Dr. Kim ran intensive scans on her neural system. Captain Lee and Lieutenant Commander Choi watched through the observation window as the results appeared on the medical screens. "It's definitely a weapon," Dr. Kim said grimly. "The biological device contains what appears to be a highly advanced plague organism, specifically engineered to target human neural systems." Captain Lee felt cold. "How deadly?" "From what I can determine, it would spread through airborne contact and kill most humans within days. It's designed to be extremely contagious and nearly always fatal." Choi stared through the window at Nira, who was still lying patiently on the medical bed. "Does she know?" "That's what we need to find out." When they told Nira what they had discovered, her reaction was immediate and devastating. The alien princess, who had remained calm and composed through months of captivity, broke down completely. "No," she whispered, her red eyes wide with horror. "No, Father wouldn't. He couldn't." "Princess," Captain Lee said gently, "we need you to tell us everything you know about this device." Nira sat up on the medical bed, her pale scales trembling. "I knew nothing about this. I swear on my mother's memory, I knew nothing." "But you said you knew this day would come," Choi reminded her. "You prepared for years to come here." "I prepared to be a bridge between our peoples. I learned your languages and customs so I could help negotiate peace." Nira's voice rose, then broke. I never imagined my father would use me as a weapon against people I've come to care about." Dr. Kim stepped forward with his scanner. "Princess, I need to ask you about your emotional state over the past 3 months. Have you felt increasingly attached to the human crew?" Nira looked at him with growing understanding and horror. "Yes. At first I was simply curious about your people. But as time passed, I began to genuinely care about individuals like Lieutenant Commander Choi. I started to think of this ship as home. The device is designed to activate through emotional attachment," Dr. Kim explained. "The more you care about us, the closer it comes to releasing the plague." Nira buried her face in her hands. "My father knew this would happen. He knew I would grow to care for you, and he used that against both me and you." Captain Lee studied the alien princess carefully. Even in her distress, Nira's first concern seemed to be for the safety of the human crew rather than her own fate. "Princess, we need to know, can this device be removed?" Dr. Kim looked at his scans. It's possible, but extremely dangerous. The device is integrated into her neural pathways. Removing it could kill her or leave her permanently brain damaged. Even if the surgery succeeds, there's only about a 30% chance she'll survive with her personality intact. Nira looked up, her red eyes clear despite her tears. Then we do the surgery. Nira, Choi stepped forward. You could die. And if I don't have the surgery, you all could die. She stood up, her full 8-foot height making her tower over the humans. There is no choice to be made here. Captain Lee shook her head. There are other options. We could put you in a containment field until we find another solution. We could keep you sedated to prevent emotional attachment from growing. Stronger. No. Nira's voice was firm. I will not spend whatever life I have left as a prisoner or a sleeping weapon. Either you remove this device, or you end my life now. Those are the only acceptable choices. Dr. Kim ran more scans. Captain, there's another problem. According to these readings, the device is already approaching activation levels. Princess Nira's emotional attachment to the crew has grown stronger than her father probably expected. We have perhaps days before it triggers automatically. The weight of the decision fell on Captain Lee's shoulders. Execute an alien princess who had become a valuable ally and friend to her crew, attempt a surgery that would probably kill her, or risk a plague that could destroy human civilization. Princess, Captain Lee said finally, if you're willing to risk the surgery, I'm willing to authorize it. But I want you to understand that this is almost certainly a death sentence. Nira bowed in the formal Vorthak manner. Captain Lee, 3 months ago, I was an unwanted daughter in a dying empire. You and your crew have given me friendship, purpose, and respect. If I must die to protect you from my father's final betrayal, then I die with honor. Lieutenant Commander Choi stepped forward. Princess, I'd like to request permission to stay with you during the surgery. Hyun-woo, she said, using his first name for the first time. You don't have to do that. Yes, I do. You came here alone, but you don't have to face this alone. Dr. Kim began preparing for the most complex and dangerous surgery of his career. Outside the medical bay, word spread through the ship about what was happening. Crew members who had grown to respect the alien princess gathered in the corridors, waiting to learn if their friend would survive her father's final act of betrayal. As Nira was prepared for surgery, she made one last request. Captain Lee, if I don't survive this, will you send a message to my father? What message? Tell him that his unwanted daughter learned something from the humans that he never understood. Tell him she learned that love is not weakness, and that protecting others is the greatest strength of all. The surgery began in the early hours of ship's night, while most of the crew waited anxiously for news that would determine the fate of both their alien friend and their own species. 6 months after the life-threatening surgery, Princess Nira had not only survived, but thrived in ways no one had expected. The operation to remove her father's biological weapon had succeeded, though it left her with some changes. Her empathic abilities had grown stronger, allowing her to sense human emotions with remarkable accuracy. More importantly, her recovery had created an unbreakable bond of trust between her and the human crew. Nira now served as the Soul's Pride's first alien cultural advisor. Her deep understanding of both human and Vorthak psychology had helped. The colonial navy established peaceful contact with 3 other alien species. What had begun as humanity's military conquest was slowly transforming into something resembling a diplomatic alliance. The real test came when long-range scouts discovered the 3 hidden Vorthak colonies that Nira had revealed during her early days aboard the ship. These weren't military strongholds, but refugee settlements filled with civilians who had fled the war. Each colony held between 50,000 and 200,000 Vorthak, living in cramped conditions on barely habitable worlds. The largest colony is on Kethmanor, Nira explained to Captain Lee and the senior staff during a briefing. It's ruled by my uncle, Prince Kethamor. He was always more reasonable than my father, but he also holds me personally responsible for our empire's downfall. Commander Taman Park, who had been promoted to lead the diplomatic mission, studied the colony reports. What kind of reception can we expect? Mixed, Nira admitted. Some will see me as a traitor who abandoned her people for human comfort. Others will see me as the bridge to their survival. My uncle will likely see me as both. Dr. Kim looked at the population numbers. These are civilian populations, families, children, elderly. They're not a military threat. No, Captain Lee agreed, but they possess advanced biotechnology and resource processing techniques that could benefit humanity. The question is whether we approach them as conquerors or as potential allies. Lieutenant Commander Choi, who had become Nira's closest human friend and military liaison, spoke up. What does Princess Nira recommend? Nira was quiet for a moment, considering her words carefully. I recommend we offer them something my father never understood, a choice. Not surrender or death, but partnership or independence. Explain. Tell them humanity offers protection and trade agreements in exchange for peaceful cooperation. Those who wish to remain independent can do so as long as they don't threaten human colonies. Those who wish to join your alliance will be welcomed as equals. Admiral Minho Yoon, who had arrived to oversee the diplomatic mission, looked skeptical. And you think this will work? I think it's the only approach that has a chance of working. Vorthak respect strength, but they also understand honor. Offer them an honorable path forward, and most will take it. The diplomatic mission launched. 2 weeks later, Princess Nira traveled with Commander Park's team aboard a specially modified transport ship. As they approached Kethmanor, the colony's defense systems immediately targeted their vessel. This is Prince Kethmore of the Free. Vorthak Colony Kethmanor, came the transmission. State your business or be destroyed. Nira activated the communication system. Uncle, this is Nira, daughter of Veltar. I come with human allies who wish to speak of peace, not war. There was a long pause. Niece, we heard you had been captured by the humans. Are you their prisoner? No, Uncle. I am their ally and friend. I ask for permission to land and speak with you face to face. Another pause. You may land, but know that many here consider you a traitor to our people. Your safety is not guaranteed. The colony on Kethmanor was larger than expected, but clearly struggling. Buildings were crowded together, power systems were failing, and the Vorthak civilians looked thin and tired. As Nira and the human diplomatic team walked through the main settlement, crowds gathered to stare at the alien princess, who had chosen humans over her own species. Prince Kethmore met them in what had once been a grand hall, but now served as a makeshift throne room. He was smaller than King Veltar, but his dark green scales and sharp eyes showed the same royal intelligence. Nira, he said without warmth. You look well. Human captivity appears to agree with you. I am not a captive, Uncle. I am an ambassador. An ambassador for the species that destroyed our empire. Commander Park stepped forward. Your Highness, we come offering partnership, not conquest. Humanity seeks peaceful coexistence with surviving Vorthak populations. Prince Kethmore studied the human commander. And what do you offer in exchange for this partnership? Protection. From hostile species, trade agreements, technological exchange, and most importantly, respect for your independence. The Vorthak prince laughed bitterly. Respect for independence? You destroyed our independence when you shattered our fleets. Nira stepped forward. Uncle, the Empire was dying long before the humans arrived. Our rigid warrior culture couldn't adapt to a changing galaxy. The humans didn't destroy us. They simply revealed weaknesses that already existed. So you blame our culture now? I blame our unwillingness to grow and change. The humans learn from every species they encounter. They adapt, evolve, improve. We stayed the same for 1,000 years and wondered why we fell behind. Before Prince Kethmore could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the colony. Emergency. Lights flashed and Vorthak civilians ran through the streets in panic. What's happening? Commander Park demanded. A Vorthak officer rushed into the hall. Your Highness, long-range sensors detect HFY bioships approaching the system. 3 large vessels and multiple smaller craft. Prince Kethmore went pale. The HFY were a parasitic species that hunted refugee populations across the galaxy, harvesting them for biological resources. How long until they arrive? Nira asked. 4 hours, maybe 5. Commander Park activated his emergency communicator. Soul's Pride, this is Diplomatic Team Alpha. We have a HFY attack force incoming. Request immediate military support. Negative, Commander, came the reply. Soul's Pride is 12 hours away at maximum speed. You're on your own. Prince Kethmore stood slowly. Our defense systems are designed for Vorthak attackers, not HFY bioships. We cannot stop them. The hall fell silent as everyone realized the situation. The colony's population would be harvested and killed, and there was no way to evacuate 200,000 civilians in 5 hours. Nira looked at her uncle, then at Commander Park, then at Lieutenant Commander Choi, who had accompanied the mission as her military advisor. "Uncle," she said finally, "I need you to give me temporary command of your defense systems." "What?" "I've studied both Vorthak defensive technology and human military tactics for years. I know HFY attack patterns from human intelligence. Reports. If we combine Vorthak shields with human strategy, we might have a chance." Prince Kethmore stared at his niece. "You would fight to defend a colony that considers you a traitor? I would fight to defend my people, whether they claim me or not." Lieutenant Commander Choi stepped forward. "Princess, our diplomatic mission has only light weapons. We can't fight bioships." Nira turned to him with a slight smile. "Hyunwoo, you've taught me much about human military thinking over the past months. Now let me show you what happens when Vorthak technology meets human tactics." Prince Kethmore was quiet for a long moment, watching his niece's confident expression. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, niece. Command is yours. Save my people, and I will listen to whatever proposal your human allies wish to make." As the HFY ships approached, Princess Nira began coordinating the defense of a colony that had rejected her, using knowledge gained from a species her father had tried to destroy. The next few hours would determine not just the fate of the colony, but the future relationship between humans and Vorthak across the galaxy. 2 years had passed since King Veltar's desperate gambit, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The human-Vorthak alliance had become a stabilizing force across 3 star systems, with Princess Nira serving as the first non-human member of the Colonial Council. Her successful defense of Kethmanor had earned her respect among both species, transforming her from unwanted royal daughter to one of the most influential beings in known space. The colony, she had saved, now thrived as the center of Vorthak's civilian government. Prince Kethmore had stepped aside, allowing Nira to establish a new form of leadership based on councils rather than royal decree. The other 2 refugee colonies had quickly joined this new confederation, drawn by the promise of human protection and Vorthak's self-governance. But the peace was about to face its greatest test. "Long-range communications have detected King Veltar's final fleet," Admiral So-Young Lee reported during the monthly alliance meeting. 40 ships, mostly damaged, heading directly for human territory. Nira, now recognized as prime speaker for the Vorthak Confederation, studied the tactical reports with sadness rather than fear. "My father has finally left his dying world. This will be his last desperate attempt to restore what he believes was stolen from him." Commander Hyunwoo Choi, who had been promoted to serve as Nira's permanent military liaison, looked at the fleet composition. 40 ships against our current alliance fleet of over 300. This isn't a battle, it's suicide. "My father knows that," Nira said quietly. "This isn't about winning. It's about dying in a way that he believes will restore honor to the royal bloodline." Admiral Lee frowned. "Can you convince him to surrender peacefully?" "I can try, but I don't think he'll listen. In his mind, I'm no longer his daughter. I'm the traitor who destroyed everything he fought to preserve." The confrontation came 3 days later, in the space between human territory and the old Vorthak, homeworld. King Veltar's battered fleet emerged from hyperspace to find itself surrounded by the combined human-Vorthak alliance armada. "This is Admiral Lee of the Human Colonial Navy," came the broadcast to all ships. "King Veltar, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated with honor." The response came not from Veltar, but from his flagship's weapons systems. Plasma cannons fired uselessly against the Alliance fleet's shields, a final gesture of defiance that accomplished nothing except to drain power from his own dying ships. "Father, please stop this madness." Princess Nira's voice cut across all communication channels, broadcasting directly to every Vorthak ship in the enemy fleet. "You're leading your people to meaningless death. You dare call me father?" "King." Veltar's voice was filled with rage and pain. "You who gave our enemies the keys to our defeat? You who chose alien comfort over Vorthak honor?" "I chose survival over extinction, father. I chose growth over stagnation. I chose to build something new rather than die defending something that was already broken. Nira's."